Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to take two of today's webcast. We had great conversations. We had a lot of questions to get to, but Jim didn't get to all of them, so we decided just to get back together and continue the discussion. So, gentlemen, the floor is open. Let's get back after it.
Yeah, I was one of the questions I wanted to get in for Jim was that there's the obvious pandemic disruption happening now, but people need to be set up systems and methods to handle all kinds of disruption. So for example, let's suppose right now all the baby boomers that we thought were going to retire in the next 5 or 10 years, let's say they all decided to retire right now. That could be a pretty big disruption, right? So, and don't worry. I mean, I'm not ready. I might be ready to retire, but my 401k is not ready. So I'm still working for a while. But let's suppose that a bunch of people decided to retire suddenly. Are companies set up to handle that kind of disruption?
So if you look at the slide, you know, it says new worker on there, and I would suggest that no, companies are not prepared to handle that kind of disruption. And you know, I think as we did our assessment survey, the smart manufacturing assessment model, maturity model, the workers and the preparation for the changing of the workforce was one of the elements that we assessed. And clearly, folks, they've heard about it. Are they ready for it to happen? No. If it happens somehow immediately, that would not be a good thing. And part of the issue that you have to think about on the workforce side is what is the scope of the job and what are the skills of the job, and how much of what people do every day when they come to the manufacturing floor is based on tribal knowledge that's learned over time, and it's experiential based, and how many systems are mature enough to have the knowledge of the worker built into the capabilities of the system. So when you have the knowledge of the worker built into the capabilities of the system, then having a new workforce come and go and training a new workforce is less of an issue. If all of your knowledge is tribal knowledge and you need years of experience to be able to run that line efficiently, then this is a big issue. And again, here's where smart manufacturing can really come to play. As you think about the skills of an operator on the factory floor and the knowledge that's happening every day with the data that's being collected, leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence so that you have the knowledge of the best operator running it day in, day out, regardless if the best operator is actually on staff.
So I've seen those kind of vision systems they put in to capture expert knowledge and how people operate in the shop floor. And I've also heard about remote management systems. And I start thinking about Big Brother looking over our shoulder. So is there a chance that we get carried away with some of these initiatives and do more harm than good with some of the new technology?
Well, I think it depends on if you're providing support and trying to keep the line up and running, if you're trying to tweak and optimize and make it run better. So let's just kind of break that down a little bit. If you're remotely trying to add capability to that equipment where you're keeping it up and running, and whether it's due to a virus or whatever the condition is, you can't quickly come to that factory. Having remote management capability and remoting in to quickly solve that problem is a very, very good thing, and a lot of people would be supportive of that. You have to get over security and cyber issues, and can they do some damage, obviously, but that's the whole idea behind part of the Institute, is trying to figure out how to do that so damage doesn't happen and the keys are given to the right kingdom. The second part of that equation around, are they actually doing more damage by trying to upgrade or optimize something? That's a legitimate question. And so I think as we go through this, the answer is a little bit unclear. Is for sure people want their plants to run. How much do they want them to evolve remotely is an open question.
Yeah, I don't know about, because I can see how it could get into some RoboCop scenario where alert, you overspent your time in the bathroom today or something. I mean,
yeah, and so let me tell you a quick little story on that. And that is, when I started this, this conversation with you guys, I said, what does smart manufacturing look like? I said, it looks like help, right? I had that conversation with a plant manager over 15 years ago when I talked to them about MES and data acquisition and whatnot. And I said, we're going to come to your factory and we're going to connect it to corporate. And we're going to provide the capability of helping you in real time. He says, well, I've never had too many good stories when it starts with, I'm here from corporate and I'm here to help. Because help usually doesn't feel quite the same way. And here's was his punchline. He said, if you're here from corporate and here to help, and you're not helping because you're doing some of the things that you suggested, Conrad, the plant manager said, I can fix that real quickly. I will disconnect you. That never happened. Never happened because you have people that are all committed and in the same boat. They're not trying to point fingers. They're trying to move forward. And as long as everyone shares that attitude, and as well as the cop is the plant who can choose to disbar you at any time, you can really get clarity on what help looks like.
Yeah, well, so anecdotally, I have a story that I like to tell about the same idea of whether we trust the help, whether we trust giving up the insights. Right? I mean, I spent a lot of time. My career started on the software side, on the manufacturing intelligence side, right? So we were constantly bringing in reports and showing one department their performance, and when their numbers made another department look bad or they didn't align with another department's numbers, man, it was a war, right? Like we don't trust your numbers and that sort of stuff. The anecdote that I like to tell is I was co-presenting at an event several years ago with one of the business leaders from a mattress company, was talking about putting sensors in beds, right? And selling smart products. And I was like, no, brother, right? Like you're not putting sensors in our beds. But he started talking about the value of it, right? So sleep apnea, sleep disorders, sudden infant death syndrome, right? And so all of a sudden you make the case like there's value in having the information, the insights, the knowledge. So the sacrifice is putting the infrastructure in place to get that, right? And so it's a parallel I draw here. Like if we show people the value that they're getting from the help, they should be much more open to the help itself. And maybe just stream of consciousness going here. Sorry. Do we get over that as the younger generation comes in, right? Are the millennials and the younger folks who have no problem whatsoever sharing their entire lives online, or is there going to be less hesitation to trust in these sorts of technologies?
Yeah, I think it's going to be much more open, right? Because when you can start making progress rapidly, and so like in this COVID-19 where you're at war, if you can share, if you can provide, you can get help from all sorts of different places, that should be encouraged, not discouraged, until it gets to the point where it's counterproductive. Yeah. And so obviously you need to have a balance and you need to have a gatekeeper on that, but the opportunity to dramatically change things is there with both the existing workforce, the new workforce. And then Conrad, one of the things you didn't talk about on this workforce side is what about reskilling? So how fast could you actually tune up someone to get them to be an operator, or even potentially to get them to do remote support? And you think about all of the online capability, all the certification methodology that's available today to take this topic of smart manufacturing and then the devices that are needed to be support of smart manufacturing and the data and the intelligence side of this. I think quite rapidly you could actually start reskilling and retraining the folks that are kind of in idle mode right now.
Yes. I mean, I would love to see more projects where we're capturing knowledge on those international plans, and maybe we want to locate them somewhere else to minimize risk, and we can then use augmented reality or something like that to help people come up to skill quicker. Or when we have a smaller workforce, that can be physically in the place, they're going to have more skills, right? And be cross-trained
Yeah,
more to handle.
and one of the areas that is just really starting to pop up, and the pandemic is probably going to accelerate it. When you're building new lines or doing engineering on existing lines, engineers tend to really dig into the process, the physical equipment, and understand the physical transformations and the equipment that's needed to perform those. As kind of a secondary thought, they worry about what the work is by people. I think what you're going to see is the human engineering and the design of the human into the process will be much more of a thoughtful thing, either because it's scarce or because the skill level's at a different level, and how you engineer the human into that loop is going to become a much more important factor as we move forward.
Well, have you guys seen, I've seen people talking about Industry 5.0 includes the humans, exactly what
Yes.
you're talking about. Right? I've
Yep.
seen reports that say, 72% or more of all the tasks performed in manufacturing are performed by humans, right? So not having them accounted for and just focusing on the devices and assets and systems leaves you exposed to a whole bunch of data that could be really powerful and meaningful.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, when all this is said and done, in companies, this topic will be debriefed for centuries. They'll say, what was the most important thing that got you through all this? It's not going to be your physical equipment. It's going to be your people.
And YouTube.
Could be YouTube. but who's creating the YouTube stuff? It's people, right?
Yeah. But I mean, from a
Absolutely.
do-it-yourself point of view, but what that kind of strategy on the plant floor is what we're talking about. How do you bring the expert in
Yes.
to the scenario, right?
Correct.
And YouTube is the easiest way parallel there, but more specific to the situation, remote experts maybe into the situation, that might become more of the norm.
Oh, I think it will. How can you do surgery on your line with everyone remote? And I think you can do it now with skilled people, but I think it'll become just a natural activity as we move forward.
No doubt. Well, as the time cop, we went through 15 minutes in a flash again. Do you guys want to keep going, or you want to grind it down? Any major points that you want to get to?
I'm fine.
I'm good. I think it was good. We spend this extra time, but we want to be conscious of the audience. And maybe we need to do a couple of segments from now on with people, and we'll have a second segment that we can share online.
Right. Yeah, we'll keep evolving and growing and learning and all the stuff that we can here. I think, Jim, you've made a bunch of great points. The whole idea that we've been espousing, just starting with the webcast series, Conrad's title is actually Ecosystem and Workforce Development Director, right? So it's about building an ecosystem. It's about getting people together to share and learn with and from each other. That's not a new story. Like, we've been talking about that for a long time, but people have been too busy, running hard, doing the things that they do. We've been leaning out staffs for decades. We've been leaning out inventories in our supply chain, right? Getting closer to, mass customization and all that sort of stuff. We're thin. We're really thin. So I think either now, and you brought up a point a few minutes ago about either underutilized or unemployed workers right now. What can we do as a country right now to tap into those folks and learn with them and from them, potentially put them to work? That we mentioned earlier, the NIST funding projects that they're opening up. That's one of the areas that we're looking at hard and saying, can we take these folks and that tribal knowledge that you were talking about, can we capture some of that, right? Can we put it into systems, or can we put people to work, on critical supply chains right now and help people, get the knowledge out? So again, no shortage of things for us to talk about. So So I guess with that, we'll draw our take two session to a close here. We'll go back to our closing slide before and encourage everybody to reach out directly to Conrad or to me by email. There's YouTube for you, Conrad, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And again, pay attention. We will have more. You will hear a lot more from Jim and his experts that he knows as we help him get his word out and bring value to everybody. So thank you again, guys. Any closing words, Conrad?
Yeah, keep the Q&A going online on the LinkedIn CESMII Smart Manufacturing Community. We will post these videos up there, but that's the same place where we can get a conversation started. If you get a conversation started, you can be assured that we will comment on it and we will keep it going.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.